Hey, what's up guys, Rip here. So as if the stuff we covered in yesterday's video about the Snow White live adaptation was not enough for Disney, there's another round of controversies affecting them. In this case, 3 different ones that we're going to cover in this video. One involving the She-Hulk actress who is once again mocking and attacking fans of her failed Marvel series. And then we'll be looking at some very disappointing numbers for the new Daredevil series, which is getting a lot of help from the media trying to spin the narrative in a positive light. But first, we're going to begin with some very interesting comments made by the star of Captain America Brave New World, that is Anthony Mackie. We've talked about him on the channel before. He was on a podcast recently and raised several discussions that I think will be very important for anyone watching this video, and has generated controversy once again, but not all of it is bad. In fact, I think overall it's some pretty good looks for him and by consequence Disney and Captain America Brave New World. Now let's get a little a bow on this movie right here. It seems like it's grinding to a halt in terms of box office numbers. Right now we're sitting at $372 million worldwide, which is quite the disappointment when it's alleged that the budget might have been as high as $400 million, which was ballooned by the fact that there was a lot of reshoots for this movie. And if you do the traditional system here where you have to make 2.5 times your budget to start turning a profit, you can do the math here, right? They're not even in the same stratosphere as that number they need. But of course, the media's been trying to spin it in a positive light. They've been trying to claim that the budget was only $180 million, which was stated by Disney. And people are saying, well, how could Disney lie? They were talking to the shareholders. That would be illegal. Well, Disney has a history of trying to mislead their investors and mislead the public by giving very vague statements about their budgets to try to generate some positive PR. In this case, that $180 million budget was said very open-endedly. Basically, that could have been the original budget, that could have been the reshoot budget, it could have been a number of things, and that's why they're saying a very generic way of how they came across this $180 million, and all of the media is running with it and trying to make this positive spin for the movie, which, by the way, even if it was $180 million, they still haven't made the break-even point, even with that number. So keep that in mind. But speaking of the media, we covered this in a video about a month ago. Anthony Mackie made some very controversial comments about his role as Captain America in this latest film. He said that Captain America doesn't represent America, right? And that caused a firestorm of controversy. He tried to walk it back literally like the next day. That didn't really work, and it was a very bad PR moment for this film. But overall, as we know, this film is struggling, but still Mackie put on a good performance. It just wasn't a very enticing story to a lot of people. It really didn't resonate that much. But right now, people are once again talking about Anthony Mackie and by consequence Disney and this film because of his appearance on a podcast called The Pivot. And this is run by some NFL guys. And they talked with Mackie about a whole host of issues, but there's 2 in particular that are going viral via clips on Twitter. And I think they're very important to talk about for anyone watching this video. This first one is his comments about what he considers like the death of American masculinity. And this is something that is perpetuated on a very wide scale in our society. And I think his comments are very, very interesting. Let's give it a listen.
I keep my boys humble. Like my boys have never had a pair of Jordans. You know, my boys don't do all that internet fly shit. I'm like your kids. And no, I don't give a I could be the biggest star in the world. Do not let me catch you being stupid. Mm-hmm. Do not. And my oldest gets it. My 15-year-old, he tells the other ones, he's like, yo, don't make dad mad. Because once you get one that's right, he gonna straighten the other ones out.
That's true.
So it's just that thing of, in the past 20 years, we've been living through the death of the American male. They have literally killed masculinity in our homes and our communities, for one reason or another. But I raised my boys to be young men. And however you feel about that, you feel about that. Right. But my boys will always be respectful. They will always say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. No, sir, no, ma'am. They will always say thank you. They will always open a door for a lady. They will always make sure that their mother is taken care and provided for. They will always be men. And that's always since they were 2 years old. Every time I left for a job, I tell my 15-year-old, you're the man of the house. You make sure these doors are locked every night, this alarm is on, you text me or you call me every night before you go to bed and you wake up.
I love that.
Because we're men.
Yeah, colossal W right there. If it's not obvious already, I agree 100% with what he's saying. There has been a war on masculinity, especially in America, for a very long time, for many different reasons and from many different sources. And I think this is an important conversation if you're watching this as a man, and that's 90% of you anyways. We have a 90-10 ratio, which, by the way, it used to be only a year or two ago, a 95-5 ratio, and now we've spun it to 90-10. I mean, call me Mr. Inclusivity, I know. But anyways, whether you're a man watching this or a woman watching this, I think this is a very important conversation. One thing I want to make very clear before I get into a few points here, just because we're saying these values should be, treated with some sort of weights, it doesn't mean if you don't follow these values exactly, you're doing something wrong. This is more about no longer demonizing what many would consider masculine traits or mannerisms. And that's what's been going on for decades, or even arguably even longer than that, if you want to get technical. Here's the issue. This attack on masculinity, calling things toxic masculinity, what have you, has been going on from many different sources, including at times the government, society at large, the media, social media, and even in places like Hollywood and even Disney. I mean, we've seen a lot of this from Disney. They're trying to basically have a change in their identity. They're having an identity crisis at Disney right now. They're realizing all of the woke garbage they've been doing for years and years is not paying off, and they're trying to pivot. But then again, at the same time, just 2 days ago, you have headlines like this from Pedro Pascal and Oscar Isaac. They cuddled as progressive media proceeds to lose its mind, hails Hollywood snuggle as a strike back against toxic masculinity. I mean, what is this headline? It's absolute garbage. But returning to this, like I said, all of those sources have been attacking masculinity, traditional American masculinity, for a very long time. And this stuff is based on values from his generation. He's 46 years old. These things he's describing are the same stuff my dad would say to me, and I'm sure a lot of your fathers have said to you. These are good things. These are things based on respect. That's the foundation, treating people with respect, but somehow that is being twisted into toxic masculinity or something that is sexist. Like opening doors for a woman is considered sexist by many people. I don't know about you, but my wife hasn't opened a door in the near 5 years I've been with her. Like, that's not going to change whatsoever. But always with this stuff, you look at kind of the deterioration of this whole concept and the effect it's had. Look at the most, what I would call, mentally ill areas of society. The people who are wackadoos, right? The wackadoos from social media, the activists, all of those kinds of people. You will not see masculinity in the traditional sense. You will see something that is very broken. Look at the latest Antifa rally. Are you seeing a lot of masculinity amongst their ranks? Absolutely not. And a lot of this has to do with this push to make men feel bad about being a man. And that's something that has had a devastating effect. It's all out of self-hatred. And you see terms like male feminist. We clown on male feminists on this channel all the time. And as pathetic as that self-hatred might be, it's also very sad. They have been indoctrinated and made to believe certain features about themselves are so bad that not only should they not be praised, they should be completely taken out of society whatsoever. And that's how you end up with a male feminist, a complete contradiction through this indoctrination, or someone just trying to get laid at college. And that's the other type of male feminist we see. But there's people out there who unironically believe a matriarchy is superior. And also, I think this whole thing about demonizing these traits, whether it's for masculinity or feminine features, the same thing happens on both sides, where traditional roles and mannerisms like that are being demonized. And I think that also works to confuse kids as well. We're basically teaching kids that certain things are just bad, that normally were celebrated or encouraged for many, many millennia. at this point, basically all of human history, but now all of a sudden it's so bad. And I think that is very confusing for young kids. But let's move on to the other clip here that's causing a much more controversial reaction. People are very polarized on this one, where he's talking about kind of like what it means to get an opportunity and whether or not success is earned or given.
We tell our kids if they do right and they make the good grades and they go to the programs and they will become successful. If you work hard enough, your work will be paid off. And that's not true. Success is given. It's not earned. Because you can be the most brilliant. If one person don't tap you, each one of y'all, there were people who could hit harder, who could catch better, who could run faster, but somebody said, you're the one. And the other 50 behind you fell off. You know what I mean?
So basically what he's saying here is that success is not earned, it's given. You have to have someone who picks you and gives you the opportunity to succeed. You basically can't do it on your own in most circumstances, which I think like on a foundational and a very like a semantic type level, I guess he's right. You know, you can't really in most senses succeed unless you're given an opportunity to do so. But the difference here is that you earn that success by being ready for those opportunities. If you are working hard or you have the skills to do something and you're given that opportunity, you can take advantage of it and make something out of it and succeed. If you're not trying, if you're not equipped with the right skills, those opportunities won't really mean anything to you. So I think on one hand, I get what he's saying, but also it's a little too literal in this sense. And I think the people who have the skills and work hard, they can take advantage of the opportunities that are not guaranteed, but if they come along, they'll make something of it, much more than someone who's not trying and doesn't have the skills and what have you. You know how people are, especially when you have an actor like this who's a millionaire saying things like this and they get angry, but a lot of people are still angry about some of his former comments, and I like to try to view things individually. I think his previous comments about masculinity, I think were awesome, and I think this one, I understand where he's trying to go with this, and it caused a lot of uproar on social media, but I think he's starting at a point but missing the overall point, and a lot of people were talking about this, and I thought you guys could enjoy these two conversations here, and as always, please talk about the stuff in the comment section because I know it's a pretty broad and interesting set of topics. But we did say there was other things to talk about involving Disney today, and I'll keep these a bit brief. So you can see the headline here. It's a wonderful one, right? She-Hulk actress still attacking fans over failed Marvel series. Gloats about how showrunner predicted toxic fan responses over now canceled show. Literally dancing on the grave of the show that they put in the ground. That's pretty interesting. But this actress has been constantly going after fans while the show was airing and even now long after it was canceled. It is a very obnoxious response from this actress. They never seem to learn, and they're still doing it to this day. So what are we talking about specifically here? So instead of taking any responsibility for the show's poor reception, she once again doubled down, blaming the toxic fans for daring to criticize the splendor that was She-Hulk. I love that it was predicting what the response was going to be, Maslaney said, seemingly gloating over how the show framed any potential criticism as misogynistic before the series even aired, and framed toxic fans themselves as the antagonists of She-Hulk. She described the move as meta, but for audiences, it came across as arrogant and dismissive of legitimate concerns about the show's writing, humor, and overall quality. What? You're saying it's poor quality? Are you telling me the scene where she was twerking in a pantsuit wasn't high quality entertainment that was capturing the Marvel fans out there? Yeah, She-Hulk, absolute disaster. People to this day still try to basically blame the male response to the show, which, by the way, everyone hated it, including women, for the show's failure, right? They're saying it's the toxic men. That's why the show failed. No, it was everyone not tuning in. That's what happened. The show was a steaming pile of garbage that nobody wanted to check out. But all of a sudden, this actress just keeps going and going with this narrative. long after the show has been canceled and there is no second season ever coming. So why are they even doing this still? Well, it shows they're a bunch of activists, and they're also, they have no impulse control. They keep doing this, and this is a terrible look. But let's move on to another topic here involving Daredevil. Daredevil Born Again viewership exposed as Disney and Variety try to spin a disappointing launch worse than The Acolyte and Agatha all along. That is brutal. Well, this comes from a Variety piece. There's several examples, but this is the most glaring one where they're trying to spin the narrative here. They're trying to say this is a huge opening for this show, and it's just not, right? It's just not. So you can see the numbers, 7.5 million views on Disney Plus. And then down here, you can see, according to the Mouse House, the Marvel television series drew 7.5 million views in its first 5 days of availability on Disney Plus, with a view defined as a total stream time divided by runtime. That makes it the biggest streaming debut on the platform this year. The show officially launched on March 4th. Disney does not regularly release viewership information about its streaming shows, so exact comparisons are a bit difficult. But for some context, it was previously reported that the Sterling K. Brown drama Paradise drew 7 million views across its first 9 days of streaming on Hulu and Disney Plus earlier this year. The first episode of the fellow Marvel show Agatha All Along hit 9.3 million views in its first week of availability in September of 2024. So you see 2 points trying to puff up these numbers. The first one saying it is the highest viewed show for Disney Plus this year. It's March. And also that's not a flex because Disney Plus is not producing any good ratings for their shows. So no, that's not a good point to be making. And then down here, talking about this Paradise show, I have no idea what that is, but we see this mention of Agatha All Along, which crushes the 7.5 million. Agatha All Along was a disaster for Marvel. So comparing those two is really bad. And as that Park Place pointed out, this is still much lower than The Acolyte. Star Wars The Acolyte pulled in, during that same duration, well over 11 million views. So what are they doing making these comparison points? We've seen a lot of fluff pieces for anything involving Disney, but this is a really pathetic one where they're trying everything in their power to compare this show to other shows and do it in a way to show success, but it's just showing more failure. And I know a lot of people are disappointed about Daredevil Born Again. A lot of people saw some early glimpses at this and they were excited, but ever since it came out, I think the reception has been very lukewarm and people are generally disappointed. But, to each their own. And as always, always let me know what you think. But for now, that's going to do it for this video. A couple of pieces involving Disney today. As always, feel free to share your thoughts about today's various topics in the comments section down below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.